centers now. So next time could be home.
So squash, car, home. Okay, you got 3 there. The grocery store could be one of them.
Sure.
Endless possibilities here.
Yep.
Make sure you get one on the toilet.
There you go. Yeah, that's true.
Let's say you're in Australia, so fighting off hordes of spiders.
That's true too. You could do that.
Not that
Go
bad.
spider season in the park.
Just send Shelob my way.
Welcome everybody to Team Talk number 6, and we got a special guest here. We got good old VG time in the house. Everyone, give them those warm welcomes here. I don't know if claps can get picked up on Discord. Probably not. The crisp sound suppression saving everyone's ears. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. A lot of card gaming this last week. Learned a couple of new games.
No, really?
Yeah.
Which games?
One was a game called Cryptic.
My friends actually helping develop that game.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
The
cool.
game is pretty fun. And then I learned Digimon over the last week. So that was fun too.
So, does it feel like it gets more love than Dragon Ball? Now, being on both sides.
At my local scene, yes, and also in the content that Bandai creates for the game, definitely. Like they have like a whole like show that is backed with cash prizing that they do for Digimon. And I was like, where is this at for Dragon Ball?
It's because Dragon Ball players can't read, so they can put whatever words in the prizing section, and we can't read it anyway, so it doesn't matter what they put, apparently. But, no, good to hear that you're exploring other card games as well, too. What out of the two, which one were you liking better?
Well, I'm playing, like, I'm going to actually play a bunch of Digimon because that's what my friend group is playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm going to try to go into tournaments or anything like that, but my friend group, like my casual friend group, they got out of Dragon Ball, they got out of Magic because it was getting too complicated, too much money and all that stuff. And Digimon is fairly cheap to play. So I said, know what? I'll learn. I'll play.
No.
Cryptic, unless a scene pops up at the local spot I'm at, I'm not going to be able to play it like that.
No? Fair enough. Well, flipping it the other way now, on to Dragon Ball, is something I always like to ask everyone. Give me top 3 decks. All time, all Dragon Ball, whatever color, whatever set, even if it's got eroded now and you can't play, give me your top 3, your MVPs in any sense. Even if the deck's dead now, just how you felt about it before. Like Set 2 Zamasu's always up there for me, even though I can't get that deck to work anymore. But
so my top 3 favorite decks, or what I consider to be the top 3 greatest decks ever made? Because they're very
personal. You're personal.
So personally, well, my favorite deck is always going to be Shroom and Salsa. Set 12, that is.
The OG ones.
The one that's starting to look really good to me.
It is.
Then number 2 is a deck I like to call Racist Frieza, which is a set 10 starter deck Frieza.
Racist Frieza, not yet. No Saiyans here.
And then lastly, I kind of got a little space in my heart for OG Shenron Leader because of how versatile it is.
That's a good pick.
Like you can just easily play anything into it.
That, you know what? That's a really good pick. I really hope we see something to kind of revive Wish decks a little bit. Nothing crazy, because we know Wish decks can go off if they're allowed to. I know experimenting, they've been going slowly. They did Meki Gabora, and then we got Zamasu, now Garlic Jr. It's all like, here's a little sprinkling of Wish, but it's not like any of the stuff really goes into the old stuff, so I'd love to see stuff like that. I know Shenjita was horrifying, and all the other Shenron comps, especially Child's Wish, which still miss that card.
Even later on with World Peace and the Hyper Ramp versions that were playing, like Kaiokens and victory strikes on like turn 4 or 5 were kind of crazy too, and giving things triple attack that shouldn't have it. That archetype didn't. It was kind of funny because for the longest time, I always knew it was busted, but at the time we had 1-2 swap and Super Shenron, and it makes a lot of things not look as bad when you have decks that are killing on turn 2 relatively consistently. Not realizing if you give a deck another turn, it might actually be kind of a problem. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why Shenron flew under the radar. Like Child's Wish was always busted, World Peace was always busted. All those cards always existed, but it didn't matter if you tapped out and you just died.
No, that is true. The World Peace one, I was just as soon as they hit that and they hit Purunga with it too, I'm like, come on, that was only Purunga's saving grace. Come on, like
We disagree with that Purunga errata. I believe that effect is fine for a once per game effect. I don't think that effect, should be like, let's say on World Peace, but as a once per game effect, to be able to just go, hey, I got to this point.
that's sort
Boom,
of see.
big play.
That's fine. Like I think that's fine because compared to Shenron's given what, triple attack or is it triple strike? I can't remember. I think
It's triple attack and 10K,
which is insane. Like you putting your boss monster, like, you know what? Now he's gonna swing 2 more times after that, and he's gonna be 10k stronger. And then to like match up Purunga, where my ultimate ability is I can play a 4-cost or whatever the hell it was. It's just like,
you got to play anything with cost less than or equal to your energy
until the hit.
Until the hit. Now, now you can't really play anything that's worthwhile. But if they allowed you to have that original ability, it would have been pretty strong.
That's because
enough.
Yeah, my favorite build with Purunga was actually the Purunga what are they? U9, the U9 dog prison, and then you just go into victory strike with your Purunga ability. So you just lock them out with the 2 Bergamos because ignoring barrier removal didn't really exist. So you just have those dangerous triangle and have all the dogs out and just wait till turn 8. It was hilarious.
Yep.
But on that note, obviously a lot of those decks are older, and of course, Shroom Salsa, the newer one at least, has been coming back in with some scary stuff now with the Toa champion card making its way through black and really doing some damage. What's your thoughts on the current state of the meta? Because I know you wanted to talk about that when we were messaging about this.
Well, I think I didn't really have as huge of an issue with the previous meta as other people had. And I think that what happens in any meta is that as long as one deck is somewhat dominant, people are going to complain and they're going to scream bloody murder and want a deck to be banned. Because what I see in this game, and it might be a little bit of a hot take, is that the lines between competitive and casual player is way too blurred in this game. Like if you play, for instance, again, Magic, there's a huge difference between the guy at your store who is the Pro Tour player or goes to all the Grand Prix and the guy who goes to the once a week Friday night locals and play there. Here, everybody, regardless if they only play at their locals or whatever, has immediate access to high-level gameplay or highest level gameplay and online regionals and things like that. And as such, they feel that they are qualified to speak on a meta. And I don't even think I myself am even qualified to speak on a meta because I'm not even that high level of a competitive player. So like if the people who are at the top are fine with how the game is going, then as far as on the top level, then I don't really see like what the huge issue is. Now when they start complaining, then I start listening. Because when they start going, hey, this is a problematic format, we can only play this deck or that deck and we are bored of it. Okay, now I'm willing to listen because it's not, random guy number 3 and I'm random guy number 4, and we're just screaming about something. But as far as this current meta, I think it's way too new right now for me to make any real decision on it, because right now, usually in the beginning of metas, what people do is they find a low-hanging fruit and they get the decks that kind of build themselves and do the cheapest, freest things, put it together, and let it pilot them until they finally, get to the point where they start trying to explore other things. And then you end up in a situation like, for instance, going back to Nats, people was like, oh, SS3, no, SS4, Red Sin, that's it. All the cards in Crimson already existed. Except one had to just put it together. Oh, Gamma, yeah, Gamma was another one. People just had to put it together. But those first 3 decks, SS4, Red Sin, and Gamma, built themselves for the most part. You had tech choices and things like that, but they were like, mostly archetype with some good stuff kind of hanging around it. Crimson took effort to build it with the right blue good stuff to get to where it was by the time it got to Nats. And that's like what's going to happen later on. Right now, Green Gohan is killing it. You have some good yellow going on. 21s are still around. But someone will start exploring things. You'll see a random, deck here and there show up that you didn't see in the beginning of the meta. Probably like a week or 2 before the next set comes out.
No, that's fair. That's what I feel, especially from last week with the regionals and PACMAN saying, especially in where was it, Tennessee? So in Tennessee, with how open the meta was
this weekend.
Yeah. So how open the meta was, which obviously in the beginning there's going to be people gravitating towards Gohan. They've tested on Untapped. They're just like, this is busted, whatever. Let's go with that. And then how you're saying with how Crimson worked, you're just building slowly, and now, oh wait, this works really good against these 2 decks that have been murdering everyone. Here we go. We got a little support here, a little support there. Now we got access to these Z cards as well too. This deck feels complete now. So I'm wondering what deck that's going to be. I don't know. I got beer looking there.
It's be something that's going to be able to deal with Gohan and some of the other decks that people are playing commonly. Like, that's why I was playing Soul Striker, because it can deal with those decks so very well, and it adds another dimension to the format. And it's not a build itself deck. What I really think will happen over the next couple of formats is, as people spent more time experimenting and actually coming up with some decks that deal with the Gohans and the likes, those decks that would have been considered, didn't expect that type thing, will become more used more often, will become more meta, and as a result, the entire meta will shift, because they'll have to adapt to not just beating Gohan or beating Shlonku or whatever it is. They'll also have to beat the decks that are designed to counter those as well. But it's for people to put those decks together to begin with.
And speaking on that, so those decks become, part of the meta to a degree, and they might hate out, the Gohans and stuff. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the case. The deck is kind of bonkers, but not in like a overpowered kind of way, just in a consistent kind of way. But once that happens, people are going to be screaming for those decks to get banned too, and those cards to get banned, and so forth. That's just kind of the thing I just noticed, is that no one is willing to let a deck rock and breathe for a long period of time. Like, I still have everybody at my local screaming, Trunks Cheetah need to get banned. Like, come on, guys. Like, it's been around too long. That's the point of having an eternal format. Like, you have an eternal format. You didn't want any card rotations, right? They brought up the idea of card rotation, so you didn't want to lose any of your cards. So that means that you want your decks to be able to last forever. Trunk Cheetah just happens to be one of those decks that happen to be lasting kind of forever right now. And actually, I was kind of bummed about the Gamma ban. I would have rather, had the 21 SCR just be locked to the leader and get it out of Gamma, because that was the big issue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pick up 3 energy was the big issue.
Well, yes, the deck got 3 energy, but if you put the play testing in and everything like that, you knew what to expect from it. like you could deal with Gamma. The problem was you had 35 minutes, you made a board, and then they played the SCR and gained 2 life, and then dirtled their way until the time got called and won in time. That's the problem. Like when it was just out there just putting out the gates, and you could just hit them with a anti-floodgate card and just go in and push them and put them down to 2 or 1, and they had to actually fight for their life. That was fine. When they don't have to, then they didn't have to do that anymore, and it was a problem.
Nice.
So, like I said, I think the SCR should have just been errata to go towards the appropriate leader, and then force Gamma to have to adjust.
See, yeah, that makes sense. Those bans on leaders, I was just like, I was okay with. SS4 and Sin people having problems with them forever, whatever. They've had their time. Gamma, I was kind of in the same boat. I'm just like, every time it's sleepy time. If I don't see my anti-floodgate, I'm just going to be here going to sleep facing a Gamma player. That's why I was just like, you know what, fair enough. But yeah, I understand with that 21 Secret Rare because of these decks that go so long where it's just like, okay, when's the last time you actually finished a game not going to overtime? Gamma player, I don't know. Here's my Secret Rare. I'm going to gain 2 more life. And GG's, thank you very much. And yeah, that's infuriating. Just, okay, I got you on the edge here. Now you're going to tap 4. And okay, well, that was turn 3. You win. But
Yeah, it got kind of outrageous, yeah. But yeah, I actually am I'm perfectly big fan of decks lasting forever and being around forever and being adjusted forever. That's why I also admire Golden Frieza keep coming up every single year with a new version. I like that. People were screaming for that to get hit too. I don't get it, but
that
yeah,
one kind of like silently faded. Like I haven't seen one in a while. Like it's just been a
We'll play a
favored
match.
map.
I'll show you one.
Yeah, I know you will. But yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of faded out more back to Trunks Vegeta and into Majin Vegeta, and then
We keep it
just yeah, keep it yeah, back pocket. But
it topped like literally like 2 weeks ago.
did it? Okay.
2 weeks ago, and it topped in regionals in Europe. So it still tops. It's just that the other thing that happens in this game, at least from my observation, is that people have a huge sense of FOMO. So even if the deck they're playing is perfectly fine, they will just throw that whole deck right into the corner, like like Andy did to Woody in that meme, just to go to what they think is the new hotness. Even if they don't have the skill sets to even rock it, just because they just think it's way better than what they have. So it's kind of weird. This game is weird. Like new deck come on, they act like the deck they've been playing that they were topping with is absolute trash.
Oh no, that is true. Going on to
They
like
want
with
to do the new
Eternal,
hotness.
yeah, that is true. Going on to like Eternal decks, as mentioned before, Soul Striker. That's another one that's kind of been like, it's been working well this set. Now this set, it's like it's kind of fallen out of favor. And now back in this set, apparently Soul Striker is doing well, getting a lot more pieces that peel off. We were talking about last week being a super good addition to any deck that runs blue energy. I'm wondering how another one, Cooler Mill, that'll just come back in. Any mill deck will come back in. Xeno Sin's kind of it's still newer than the other two, so you've seen it here and there. It's just that I just blame Carl for seeing that deck.
Most of the time when you see a mill deck, it's like at the beginning of every format. That's when the mill will pop up and then it'll just go away.
No, and that's with like a heavy yellow format. That's where Cooler Mill comes in, where it's just like, oh, yellow's identity's barrier now? Okay, whatever. Now I can minus barrier with this 1-drop arrival. But, Beer, I heard you tried to get in a couple times. What do you got to say?
So, on the Cooler Mill, like since the last quarter when that one started, it's been popping up. Like I got my top, and then like I noticed like every single regional, there's someone topping with Cooler Mill. That one's been like a pretty consistent one. I feel like it's almost like at that point where it's kind of like Golden or Soul Striker, where it's like you just gotta pick it up and play it, and it's one of those decks you can't ignore anymore, honestly. But what I was gonna say was with regards to the how vocal the community is. It is a great thing, but obviously, like BG time outlined, there is obviously downsides to it. But I do still feel there is some merit to when even the majority is crying foul about certain things. There are some things that probably should be getting into certain aspects just because it doesn't make it as fun when you go to your locals, because that's something that does happen, right? Is a way to really quickly kill your game is if the people who are the players, the people who are buying your boxes, buying your product, just don't want to play the game anymore because they're tired of seeing the same thing over and over, losing to like some cheap interaction over and over. It will kill your game. I've seen it happen, not for Dragon Ball, but like I used to play Force of Will, and that legitimately happened. There is a leader called Reflect Refrain, and it was the most broken thing ever. It was a toolbox leader that could never be killed. You know what I'm talking about.
You know about
Complete
Clever
toolbox.
Flame.
Oh, imagine this. Leader would either pump something on your board, or draw one bottom deck one, or untap something at the end of your turn, or and then would flip over to its other side and like counterspell stuff, search stuff for free or whatever, and it would just do it over and over, and you could never kill it. It was completely uninteractable, and it took that company over like a year and a half to finally be like, you know what, let's just ban this. And by that point, it was too late. It killed the game, right?
Sounds
Yeah,
similar to what would have been for, I think it was what, set 3 or 4 when you had the SS3 ramp. But if you wanted to run an all red deck, you looked at the pan leader and said, I don't want to use pan, I'll use SS3 Goku. Or I don't want to run this green deck, I'll use SS3 Goku. Just run everything.
Exactly. That's literally what happened for that game. And I and that's what I'm saying. Like I still do feel merit that like when the large amount of the community is like very vocal about certain things, yeah, there probably is some merit to it. But like when like people cry foul about like a certain few decks being like really dumb. Like I remember like last year people were crying foul about Red U7 Goku. Oh, it's too OP, the awakened condition, awakens at 8 life, yada yada. Okay, we're like a year later. Where's the deck now? Like I know I played every now and then, but I don't see anybody else really playing this deck, man. Like I go to my locals, I got one guy, two guys maybe playing at most. Like where'd it go?
that
Right?
goes back to the other point I was talking about. Beer is like,
Yeah.
okay, so it's obvious that U7 Goku was on a level of Red Sin and SS4. Those decks are gone now. There, people who loved U7 won't even look back at the deck, and it's not like the deck was trash. The deck had literally every tool, but they just won't even look at it because
Homo,
it's
like you
shiny.
said.
And they got what, 2 more tools?
Literally, like I remember when Red Sin was at full power, I was still able to beat it with Red U7 Goku, thanks to Anniversary Bonk support. I literally thought up of all the ways to win that matchup, and I was able to do it. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why is nobody playing this? It didn't go
So,
anywhere.
so the other thing that comes up is people don't want to learn matchups, learn how to play their deck into matchups, and put the work in. They would just rather complain about their lack of preparation rather than do something about it. And again, that goes back to if you go to a tournament with 192 people, probably 150 of them aren't really trying to be tournament players. They're just, there, pick up some packs, have a good time, and they'll be like, oh, I lost to this deck. Time to complain instead of just getting better at it. And I know get good is like a terrible thing to say and it's so supposed to be toxic. But part of that is you do have to put the time in. You do have to put the practice in. You do have to put the preparation in. And if you're not willing to do that and you're just catching L's back and forth, so many people, this is a little side tangent, like so many people will play me with what's supposed to be the best deck and they just play it A, B, C, D like they always do and then lose and then be like, oh, what happened? I put the time in. I put the preparation in. I figured out what I needed to do in the matchup to give myself a chance. It's not like it's going to be 100% win, but you give yourself a chance. You disrupt plays. You go in. You do what you got to do. And if I lose, I lose. But I might learn something that will help me the next time to make adjustments in the way I play or my deck building to help me out in the matchup. I was already having a high win rate against Sin and SS4 after a month and a half into the format. But yeah, everybody was screaming and crying. But as far as like going to locals, I believe locals should not be the spot you bring your tier 1 deck to anyway. Like, what are you trying to prove to yourself? Like, you just out there with the cardboard. Like, I'm not sure how far I could go in my language.
Go
But-
as far as you fucking want.
Yeah, you just come out here with the cardboard peen, just throwing it on the table like, oh, it's so cool. Like, no, like, go there, play some cool stuff. If you're really that good, and everybody's playing like the cool, fun stuff, you're gonna still get your winner packs. You're gonna still win. Like, nothing is stopping you from doing that. But you should not be showing up there if you read in the temperature of your locals. If your locals are full of a bunch of sweaty, try hard players, and that's another story. But if your locals is a bunch of people at various levels in the game, just don't show up there trying to wreck them and to prove to yourself that you think you're cool. Like, I just don't get that. I used to have that at a locals, and it killed my locals that I was at, where these guys were like, "Well, I'm prepping for a tournament." I was like, "You're at this locals. This is not where you prep for a tournament. You prep for a tournament in your team. You prep for your tournament and play testing. You don't prep for your tournament going against people who have 2 trial decks together."
They're prepping for their first and second round.
Maybe, but I just never believe locals will ever be a place you bring your tier 1 to tier 0, tier 1.5 deck.
And locals is where you bring things that you're trying to test, where you bring things that are just for fun. You don't bring degenerative stuff like the new Gohan Exodia. You don't bring that to locals.
I mean, I bring it to locals because
I'm bringing it tomorrow. I'm bringing it tomorrow.
No, my group's 5 people, and all the players that are there, they've always said they wanted to get better competitively. So I was like, cool. Well, I'll just start bringing more competitive decks. Not everyone. I mean, until now. I mean, now that I'm recently just been added to the team along with Anthony, I didn't have too much of a team to test with. I mean, I always had my Hermit style boys in Discord or stuff like that. But as far as like locals, it just really depends on how big your locals is to determine whether or not you can take the tier 0 deck or the tier 1 deck or whatnot. Obviously, we all still bring our jank, and we be like, hey, what we playing this week? Are we playing jank, or are we really testing? So the only time we ever really probably played like the big bad decks is like if a regional is coming up or if Nats is coming up. But for the most part, I mean, locals should be fun.
When it comes to testing, I'll add something else that not enough people do. The idea of a blind playthrough where you actually don't have an opponent and you're simply going to go through your cards, shuffle up your deck, play it through how you want to play it. And there's multiple ways of doing that. So I would classify it in 3 different ways. The first one would be, what is my curve? What is my doing if my opponent does nothing? What is my card on turn 1, my cards on turn 2, my cards on turn 3? The second way to do it is pretend you're doing it against a specific matchup. How are you going to approach that match differently? Are you going to flood the board against Cooler Mill? Well, hopefully not. Are you going to draw as many cards against Janemba Mill? I hope not. Are you going to dump all your cards into an early attack against Green Gohan? Well, again, I hope not. You can play differently depending on which deck you're playing against. The third one is to look for alternate play lines apart from the original intended ones so that you can see what other flexible options your deck may have. And then once you start actually playing some games with it, you'll have an idea of what you want to do, some alternative options based on matchup, and the different things that your deck can do if you really wanted to mix it up and keep your opponent guessing. And that way, when your testing will be far more valuable. And that can all be done without an opponent. It can just be sit there with a mat, your own deck, and spend half an hour just going through the first couple turns in as many different ways as you possibly can and get yourself really familiar with your own deck.
No.
I think what you said about finding alternative play lines is extremely important. I was playing against, I'm not sure if you guys know him, Bloodshot. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was saying to me, "Oh man, every deck you play is so aggressive." I said, "No, I play you aggressively because I know how you handle aggression. it has nothing to do with the deck being aggressive. I know how to sequence my cards to be aggressive if need be, and I know how to sequence my cards to be defensive if need be. And some people don't have the ability to know how to play their deck outside of just this turn one, this turn two, this turn three, and that's where what you were speaking about, finding alternative play lines, figuring out different ways to approach it, and different matchups. People don't understand, and I totally get it.
You gotta, yeah, basically, you gotta learn to pivot. And adding on to what you're saying there as well, one thing I find that a lot of people don't do when it comes to testing, which will definitely help it if you're trying to get into like regional tournament level play, is they don't test with sideboard, and I find that's very important. You need to test with your sideboard.
You should always be testing with your sideboard. Like I think 100%. And you test the deck. Like what I like to do in testing, I don't even like to die roll. So I'll say, hey, we're gonna do a best of 3, or even just a best of 2, because I want to go first against the deck and I want to go second against the deck, and I'm gonna side regardless, because siding is different whether or not you go because I think we die roll then side now, right? Is
No.
that no?
We side then die roll.
You free side then die roll. But in a best of 3, or like when you're in top cut, it's gonna be different whether what you side in and what you don't side in. So
Yeah, it's good to
like
practice that both
I
ways.
always try to build a side deck. Probably I'll do it after I test the deck maybe 5 or 6 times, just so I can see what the main is, and then I can find my weak points. And then hey, what do I need for this matchup, or what do I expect to see? Because like I said last video, the meta's wide open and we can't side for everything, but we should side for just what we know is going to be most represented, because you never know what you're going to see as of right now. I think we're going to go into our second regional with not OPO2, my second regional with Wild Resurgence for DBS. But like at the same time, it's just people just have to prepare. I mean, preparation's half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a good example as to how the sideboarding can change based on best of 1 and best of 3 would be, say, using Haru into Green Gohan. If you know you're going first in that sort of matchup, then siding in Haru would actually be really good, because you know that after on your turn 4, you can get maximum value. They'll only have the 3 energy that they used to attack and or defend. Whereas if you were going second in that matchup, it's far less value, because they can attack you and leave energy to stop a card like Haru from going off. So it's not a card that you would side in best of 1, but it is a card that you could very feasibly side in best of 3.
Yep.
And just expanding upon siding, like one of the best things to do when you're play testing with side is just to start with the side cards in your hand. Like you should be able to have a play testing group that you could be like, hey, I want to see what happens if I open with this card, how it works in this matchup, if I get to play it on curve against you. Because playtesting is not a place for ego. So losing in playtesting doesn't mean that you're, bad and you're not competing against each other in playtesting. You're trying to figure out information and be able to, sharpen iron. Iron sharpens iron, and get all the skills you need to get. And I spoke about this before. You should be able to have honest conversations about how the matchup is going and be open to suggestions from outside of yourself, because you don't know every card, every interaction, and be able to hear it and then try it out, see if it does.
And rewind plays too. Like I would try to rewind plays if you could.
That's what I was gonna bring up with. I know, especially near Nats, where like Beer was the test dummy. Basically, he had the Red Sin, he had Gogeta built, and
I had everything.
He had everything built, and everyone was kind of going at him with the decks just because he had them built, just so we could test against it. But anytime we faced, it was always like a conversation while we're going. It's just like, oh shit, should I really be doing this? Like, what do you think this is the proper play line? Should I use the SGR here, or should I wait later on? Like, especially if you're doing it in a team, it's not about who's winning, it's how you can optimize each other's decks. So it's just
Also add to that, another good way to do it is to, at certain points where you're not sure what the play is, it's a friendly team format, reveal the hands and get an idea as to what's in play, so you can get a rough idea as to what lines you could be going for. It's okay to do so. It's not like you're cutthroat. You're not playing a regional. It's okay to give some hand knowledge.
Like, and one thing that, like, one of my friends, they'll play test a deck, and then the minute they start losing with the deck, they'll put it down. They're like, "Oh, I'm not winning." I was like, "You learn so much from losing and testing that when it comes time to actually play in the event, you've already seen the worst you can do. Now you just know the ways to play out of it, if that makes sense."
That's a good point too. Like even playtesting where you put your where you're put into a corner and it's just like, okay, what if this is happening in an actual match? If this is happening at a regional and you're starting to worry about going into time and you're already there, you're like, oh, I'm in this position. You start to freeze up and then, oh wait, you just lost due to time rules or something. If you're used to that situation where you're backed into a corner here, it's just like, oh, I've done this already 5-6 times. Just like, oh, just do this, and I'm safe for next turn.
All right. And that, I mean, that even goes back to like I said the other last video when I picked up the Lambo. I played it as fast as I could, and I wanted to literally push it to the limit and see how aggressive I could be. And then I knew when I was in that same situation, I could scale it back, and I didn't have to be that aggressive, and I could wait for you to make the mistake, so then I kill you on the next turn. Or, for example, I haven't played against Yellow Sin in ages. My friend Jay was playtesting Yellow Sin. I walked right into a haze, right? I see Yellow Sin in the regional round 1. You think I walked into a haze at all? Nah, not a single time. I was not finna do that. So it's just something that people don't value enough or don't do enough is playtest. I mean, testing with your group, or even if you just have your close friends at locals, just playtesting is something that's very key to get better at this game.
I wholeheartedly agree. Something I didn't was super successful for me was like when I got the third place at Zenkai with Bojack. It's blue Bojack. Like, come on, like it's not a top tier deck. Let's be real here. But like, it's one of those decks where like the lines of plays, the alternative options, and everything's just so many ways you can go about it because everything in your energy is basically another card you can play. And like, like Lucas, you remember like how I swear in like a period of 2 weeks, I think I put in like 65 to 70 games.
It was over
with my
60.
list.
Yeah, it was
Like,
over 60 games. It was ridiculous.
Bro, I was putting so many reps in. Boom, boom, boom. Like, yo, come on. Who wants to play? 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 Just anybody wants to play. I don't care what it is. I just want to face it. I just want to learn the matchup and just understand everything. The lines of play, my options, everything. And like it obviously paid off. Like my only like loss was to Blue Beers, which I knew was a like that is not a winnable matchup. I have to basically kill him. And that's it. Like if I don't kill him fast enough, I lose. That was it. And like otherwise, it's like yeah, it's like it pays off. It really does. The practice, honestly, like practice makes perfect. Not 100% perfect, but like pretty close.
Pretty close.
No, that's definitely something that everyone should, if they're trying to get more competitive, that's the number one thing to do. Find people that you can play test with that, you know, not having egos, where it's just like, it's not about winning or losing, it's just literally how we gonna play better. Both of us together, you have a conversation, and that's where the match goes, and that's how you can find the best version of the deck. And that's probably where these secret decks, like, they have to come from there, where like something like Crimson, where it sneaks up with, it's just people playtesting being like, wait, this is working really good right now. What interaction can this stop? What interaction do I have to worry about in this matchup? Let me face this deck. Let me face that deck. Like even Beer with prepping with those 60 matches. I think I faced him with like OG Broly and like Black, all these weird ass decks. Because you're just like, I just want to face anything. I want to see what, because you know, anything from set 1 that's Golden Frieza or OG Broly will pop up maybe once or twice. And you'll just be like, oh my god, what the hell's going on here? Because people...
You never know what you're going to face. Yeah. You really don't.
No, not a single time, bro.
Bro, like, somebody might just play green set 1 double strike Goku later for no reason at all. Like, you don't know, right?
Clash Coup coming back. Clash Coup coming back.
Clash Coup's another one that pops up always randomly.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I do like about the game, though, is that at least in the early rounds, you're bound to run into something random. Like it's
that's what makes
like
it awesome.
You see it and you go, no, respect to you, man. Respect. Hey, I'm one of those guys that would be playing something random. So,
amen. Me too.
Me three.
That's still like gnats going around when people are asking, "What the hell is what's in power? What is this cooler deck?" I'm like, "It's from last set, guys. Come on, like, you guys don't know what this is." No, and you know what? Sometimes those decks they crack because it's the element of surprise where people literally don't have any knowledge of the deck because they're just like, "Oh, what's the meta thing? What is this? Oh, what do I need to beat? Oh, I need to beat Sin. Oh, I need to beat Gogeta. Okay, that's what my deck's got to do." And then someone comes in with Golden Frieza, and then you're just like, "What the fuck?" And then I was like, "I didn't prepare for this," and that's why we were talking earlier about having decks be able to pivot and you being able to pivot, which is a super strong skill. That's why, like, I was talking in an earlier team talk about how I always like aggressive green decks, where since it's green, you always have the undertones of being hand control, but say like Cooler Unison or even Gohan can be more aggressive. I haven't been able to get my hands on the full list yet, but with like Cooler Unison, where you can literally just swing like hell, but you get floodgated. What am I going to do now? I can't swing anymore. Let's pivot to hand control. I can do this instead, and then just go here, make them discard one here, make them discard one over there, go into the unison, makes them discard one. Just being able to go kind of either aggressive or hand controlling in that sense makes that playstyle a lot better. But I know with Anthony talking about how Soul Striker is working really well because of the mid-range format, because the deck can pivot really well. You can either go ham in, or it's just like, oh, you want to make this game quick? How about I drag it out to the long game where you don't have any power in this matchup anymore? So that's what's, I think, really important right now, at least within the format. It has been for the game for a long time. It doesn't matter if the format's being really aggressive. If a deck can pivot between that, that's the deck that's usually going to take the W.
I can agree with that for sure.
That's right.
Because even you, Pac-Man, saying with the Crimson Lambo, you're saying you wanted to play it fast. But the second that you took a second to let the opponent screw something up, you're like, okay, now I can go in for kill shot.
Yep, 100%. I mean, it's just like, even with, I would say with Gohan, like, playing the Gohan deck, one of my friends, he would just like turbo down to 4 just so he could Z awaken and get there as quick as he could. And I was like, you don't have to do that, dude. Like, you could just take it one step at a time. Let me deal the damage to you. You'll get the cards eventually. And then you can get to a longer game to where you have more energy with Gohan. Because once you run out of gas with Gohan, there ain't no coming back, man. You don't, once your hand's gone, it's very hard for Gohan to win.
You heard it here first. Starve Gohan, then you win.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
That's how I used to attack it at first, and then I played against some good Gohan players, and then it got real ugly.
A lot of people don't do this though. Just to keep them off their boss monster, don't charge the 3. If your deck can function on 2 energy, you can, like, I literally watched it on stream the other day, and it was wild. Somebody charged 2 energy. They just stayed at 2 the entire way, and then when they were ready to kill them on the next turn, they went to 3, and then they proceeded to kill them. Like, you can slow the deck down from and keep it, because it runs on the back of the 8-drop, right? Most green decks now run on the back of the 8-drop, and without you being able to play that 8-drop, what's Gohan gonna do? Pay their 1 to keep playing the little bodies, and then you just floodgate them, and then now they got you're gonna tax their hand more, and then they're gonna start charging those 8-drops. And when they start charging those 8-drops, that's when you're like, okay, cool. How many 8-drops have you charged here? All right, or how many have you comboed off? Or you keep counting that, and then you go in.
That's very good advice. But like you say, you have to be able to figure out how to make your deck function like that too. Just aren't built for that. So you just got to figure it out.
If you're sitting across from a green Gohan and they charge a red green, just know at that point you need to continue to charge more, because you don't want to restrict yourself. Because that Exodia deck is just going to come out and be like, hey, you're at 2 life, SS4 Son Goku, let's get rid of both of them.
Yep.
No. And there'll always be Exodia decks like that'll pop up like that. Like we saw Gogeta BR, where it was there for a bit, where people calling for emergency bans and all that stuff. But then people are like, okay, but really, what do we do against this deck? And it's just like, okay, We
Save
go down these
counterplay.
play. Yeah, and then now with this one, it's just like save a counterplay. Like people, like the first time it happens, like it happened to me today. I'm just like, oh, so this is what it is. Oh, I'm dead. That's that's literally with a whole interaction. It's just like, oh, you sniped a secret rare too. I'm like, oh, I'm dead. It doesn't matter.
Right.
No, but I think that was a decent talk so far. Was there any questions for VG?
No, I mean I've played against him before and I've talked to him before, so I mean he's all good in my book.
So I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Played against
Fantastic
VG a
player.
few times. Got to meet him in person a couple times as well. Solid dude.
Yeah.
Definitely check out his stream.
No, 100%. That's why I was gonna let you roll right now while right before we close up. Let the people know where to find you. Let them know what's up.
Primarily on YouTube right now, youtube.com/VG time, VG_time. Don't stream as much as I once did because I feel weird cannibalizing other streamers. Like if we all kind of like jump on at the same time because we're all playing in the same tournaments. We're just taking the same audience away from each other. So instead of doing that, I just rather let it be, let you guys do your thing. And then if I could find a night when nobody is streaming, then I'll stream then.
I don't know. You see that? Weird thing you say. I feel like a lot of people, at least in my chat, I always hear like double, like they're double streaming where it's just like, yo, VG's playing this deck and he just whooped this guy's ass. I'm like, nice. I really hope I'm not going to get killed by this deck the next round.
I'm double streaming right now.
See, look, there's a lot of double
I
streamers.
got 2 windows open. I got one for now Dane. I didn't even know Dane had Twitch. And then Eggman's, I got both of theirs going right now. And then like when Rosas is on and Bria, I have both of them going, one on the iPad, one on the computer, or even my phone. And I just try to have everybody, stream open, show love to everybody that you follow, because the only way the community grows is showing love.
That's true.
Maybe I'll start streaming again. 'Cause I just really was like, I don't know. I want everybody to be able to like have a night that they are the big guy.
I feel that. I can feel
Yeah,
that.
I get it.
But if everybody's just watching everybody, then why not?
Yeah, just do it. Gets you more content. And more content means you get to post more on YouTube. You get to post more on YouTube. More people get to, hopefully new players get to see this game. And that's what I've been liking seeing on at least comments on the main channel where people are like, oh, the one I had most recently was someone asking about once per turn and limit 1. Where they were confused about, they're like, I'm just new to this game. What's the difference? Is limit 1 like once per game? Like, what's the difference? And I broke down and explained the difference. Seeing that new people are watching the content and getting into the game, that's what helps build the game. Because Bandai, they don't want to, advertise too much about this game. So I guess the content creators got to do it.
Right.
Yep. And I'm still waiting for this digital client announcement for the next wave because I'm telling you, once that happens, everybody who's been on the content creation grind is going to just blow up because a lot of Dragon Ball YouTubers like Rhyme Style and all those people were playing this game, getting hundreds of thousands of views. Then once they start looking for things to learn about the game, they're going to come to, a small, humble little Dragon Ball channels and get the knowledge they need.
Hey, that's what we can only hope, right? And seeing from the numbers from like Rhymestyle and his buddies all getting early beta access and recording and stuff, they were getting views. They're to everyone else, this is just a Dragon Ball video game, right? And then you realize, oh, wait, this is an actual card game. And then hopefully whatever percentage, I know it'd be a much smaller percentage than the people that are just playing the video game, would adventure into these smaller channels and then going in like, oh, okay, this is how the game is now. This is completely different, especially if they keep it in the same format there. They're just like, these are the same game? What's going on?
Yep. Man. But yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. Like, it was very cool to hit me up, and I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. That's we're glad we could finally get you on. I know we're gonna probably start doing more guest stuff again, but I'm glad that we can get you in here because you're a fucking awesome member of the community. Meeting you at Nats is an absolute pleasure. Start streaming again, man. That's all I'm saying. People are multi-streaming. Your personality is great. Get it up on Twitch again.
All right. I will do that.
Perfect. But I guess being the end here, Beer, let's hear it on the way out.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a great time. Have fun, just enjoy yourselves. Shout out to Game Theater, sponsor, of course. Shout out to the Pac-Man. Make sure you watch the Pac-Man special, right? Of course. Shout out to VG Time for coming here, and make sure yet again check out his channel at VG_time on YouTube. Right. Obviously, shout out to Rosas. Please do check his streams. Man, it's hilarious. I mean, I guess you could check my stream, but all I do is play Sekiro or play cards, like whatever. And yeah, just have a great time, and what do I say? Stay super or something like that. I think, right?
There we go. See now, where the hell's Carl?
Where's Carl?
There we
Carl?
go. There we
There it
go.
is.
Perfect. We got that's the clip right there.